Hi, I'm Sarah.
I'm Don.
And welcome to Book Drops. This is our first episode, so we're so glad you could join us. We both work at the Cleveland Public Library. I work in the popular department. We're at the main library downtown. And where do you work?
I'm Don. I'm the manager of the literature department and also the coordinator for the Ohio Center for the Book.
Nice. So we're going to talk about all sorts of things on this show. We love all types of books between the two of us. And all sorts of media too. So yes. I am a big audiobook listener as well as a reader and a TV watcher and all sorts of things. So we enjoy all sorts of media. What do you like to?
And one of the things that we want to make sure everybody knows is that we are going to cover all kinds of stories and all kinds of media. So we're looking at print books and ebooks and audiobooks and every format in between and every genre, and we're going to talk about comics, and we're going to talk about books, media that are based on comics, and all kinds of things like that. So we are not book snobs in any sense of the word. So we want to cast as wide a net as possible. One of the things we also want to make sure to tell everybody is that we are here actually to learn from each other because we both have different tastes, and we are also looking forward to learning from you. So if you have suggestions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're looking forward to learning from some guests down the road here and from other people around the system. So we're just here to learn and here to read and here to enjoy.
And I wanted to mention some of my favorites too. I am a genre reader. Most of the time, I do a lot of romance. I do a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, mysteries, which I've been getting more into on audio lately. And so I think that kind of meshes well with what you read.
It does, as a matter of fact. So we have a similarity in our tastes as far as some of our genres go. I will say I don't read probably as many romance books as you do, since you mentioned that.
I'll cover that.
And I'm also a big nonfiction reader. I enjoy both narrative nonfiction and just nonfiction for the sake of nonfiction. History, some psychology, things like that. Popular books written in those veins. Big audiobook listener too on that commute. Makes it go a lot faster, that's for sure. And so we're looking forward to, like I said, learning from each other and learning from you. So,
oh, nice. Robin says she's reading Body of Stars.
Excellent.
So I did that one. We'll have to have that on an upcoming show.
Exactly. And I believe you spoke to the author as
I
well,
have spoken to the author.
Yeah, so,
I know her.
Yeah, see?
All right.
That's like a name dropper. Right?
I know her.
I know that author.
So I think next we had just some quick picks of what we wanted to read. And we talked about calling it beach reads, but it's just kind of not a great term.
Yeah.
It kind of implies that fun books you would bring to the beach aren't
real books.
Aren't real books, and a fun romance or a fun thriller, horror book.
We are of the opinion that anything you want to read on the beach is a beach read as far as we're concerned. So that's whatever you want to read is good enough for us. So we acknowledge the genre of beach reads, right, but we're not necessarily going to respect it.
Right. And I was saying, what about the genre of that I'm going to sit on my couch and that's going to be my beach vacation?
Exactly. Not everybody can take a beach vacation. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. So
I guess I'm going to start in our quick picks. So we're going to call them quick picks and not beach reads. So just go for that. So first of all, the book that I'm going to recommend first takes place on the beach. So there's our segue there. It is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes right there. What I did, I actually listened to the audiobook. Natalie Haynes is actually both a classical scholar as well as a stand-up comedian. So her narration skills are top-notch, and she does an excellent job. The idea of 1,000 Ships is that it is a retelling of the Trojan War from the perspective of all of the female characters, and it gives you an entirely different perspective on the war and the outcome. Some of the opening scenes take place on the beach outside the ruined city of Troy, where all of the Queen of Troy and her daughters and all the women are waiting on the beach to find their fates. We look at Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra, who's waiting and lying in wait for him back in Mycenae, and we get an entirely different view. The reason I would highly recommend the audiobook is, again, because of Natalie Haynes' skills as a narrator. You really get a sense of both the stress that the women are under, as well as the whole perspective that she brings. Another perspective that's fun in the book is that she speaks for the muse who's trying to inspire Homer, and the muse gets quite annoyed with him, and it's like, I'm giving you this great story, you got to use it, come on. So I cannot recommend 1,000 Ships Higher. I enjoyed it thoroughly, gave me a whole different perspective on that classic work. And if you can, pick up the audiobook either through CD or through one of our download services as well.
Nice. That really makes me want to read it. I hate to say, I only know Helen of Troy.
There you go.
So
there you go. And you ask anybody. Name somebody from the Trojan War, and it's either Helen or it's Achilles. And it's like that's it.
That's the only.
Yeah, so it opens up a whole new world for you.
Nice. So my first pick is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. So if you read or saw The Martian with Matt Damon, this is the same author. This is his third book. I just finished it last week and loved it. It is so much fun. And I don't want to give too much away, so I'm just going to give the beginning just to get you hooked. So
yeah, we will do our best to not give you spoilers.
Spoiler-free
we'll do our best.
We said except for TV shows that have been done for 10 years, because that's your fault.
Or the end of the Iliad.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This guy, he wakes up and he's in a hospital bed and he's hooked up to IVs and catheters, and there are robot arms taking care of him. And he has I know, it's skeevy. He has memory loss and can't figure out what's going on. He looks around the room and there's 2 other hospital beds and there's dead people in them. And he's the only one alive in this kind of sterile room. And so as the book goes on, he starts remembering where he is, what he's doing, and he has to kind of science out, how to survive and what's going on. And so it flips back and forth to present day, him trying to figure it out, and in the past, what led up to this. So.
I love the fact that you can use science as a verb in that endorsement.
I said, I walked away from this book, and I think it was Memorial Day, and I walked away and I thought, he really needs me. He is not going to make it unless I go back and help him. So it's like when in The Martian, he lost all the potatoes. So if you like that and got into it, it's the same kind of thing. So lots of problem solving.
That's great. And would you recommend are you listening or reading?
For that I read.
You read.
So I can't say, I read his second book on audio, listened to the second book, Artemis, which was about a space station and a thief, and had lots of voices, and was read by Rosario Dawson.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty entertaining.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My next quick pick is a science book. It is 7.5 Lessons About the Brain by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. It is a fascinating look at the organ inside your head. You will never look at your brain the same way after you read this book. She also wrote another book called How Emotions Are Made, which is a little bit longer. This one's a nice, concise look at her research. She also has some great things online, too, for YouTube, and she has a great TED Talk. But 7.5 Lessons About the Brain is basically a look at how the brain functions, basically to keep your body's energy budget in line. It is an organ that we think of that's it's there for us to think, and that's its main purpose. But what Dr. Barrett says is, no, it's there to run your body's budget, keep everything in equilibrium. And you are also a product of your preconceptions. The example that she gives is that if you waited to react to your world, that by the time you got the sensations, the bear would have eaten you and it would be all over. So your brain is constantly making predictions on what's going to happen from previous experience. And then if your senses come in and they match those preconceptions, then it just goes about its day, and you don't have to worry about it. So it's a fascinating look at the way your brain works. It is backed up by years of research, and it's a really interesting look at something that you think you know a lot about. So, because you personally own one, if you know.
You didn't know.
Yeah.
And I wonder like how that translates over time with your brain is used to that, like, oh man, there's a bear, and how does that in modern life? Like,
exactly.
what kind of adaptations happen?
And she actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because she gives she gives all the science and all very interesting, very narrative style. She's a great writer. But then at the end, she also gives some practical advice too on how to apply these things now that you know them. So that's a very good point.
How do I not panic all the time? So my next pick is an LGBTQ plus romance called Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And I was looking through some reviews today, and the best one was that it was like eating a pint of ice cream. And it is. It's sugary sweet and lovely and romantic, and it's like a rom-com. So the premise is that the Prince of Wales and the first son of the United States kind of clash with each other. They have to go to state events together and, just don't like each other. So there was kind of this debacle where the tabloids got this picture of them kind of fighting, and it was really bad PR for both famous families. So they got put by their handlers on an enforced, promo tour where they're buddy and have to take all these photo ops, and kind of after that started texting and started to find they had more in common. And from there kind of realized there's more going on, and it's really sweet. And they're both close to their families. So it's a little bit of, how is this going to affect our really famous family if this relationship continues? So I really enjoyed it.
That's great.
And really good side characters too, kind of quirky sister and a cousin and a friend, and parents too. So I like that.
That's great. That's the thing with romance books. There are good romances, and it's assembly line written romances. So whenever you get a good one, that means a lot.
Yeah, and it was just it was different, and it was a little quirky and out of the box, and kind of some of their text exchanges are funny, and so I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it wasn't just exactly what you were.
And as a teaser, Sarah has told me that some of the audiobooks for romances there's some issues with those. So we're going to save that for another episode, but consider that a teaser. So that'll be something for you.
I had to tell Don about my pet peeves with romance audio. So you'll hear about it.
Well, speaking of romances, if you want to hold up Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me is a YA graphic novel by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. We read this for a book discussion once, and it is a sweet little YA romance. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I just fell in love with the book and the characters. Freddie is in a relationship, a very tumultuous up and down relationship with Laura Dean. And I keep wanting to say Laura Dern. It's not Laura Dern, it's Laura Dean, just to be clear. So she keeps in a relationship with Laura Dean, and Laura Dean keeps breaking up with me. There are some great characters in there. I just fell in love with Doodle, poor Doodle, man. But, I'm not going to give any spoilers. You need to read the book, and it's written very well. It is just a joy to look at. The artwork is just wonderful, and it's just a good. And there are some real ups and downs in the relationship, both with Freddie and Laura, as well as Freddie and her friends, especially Doodle. So I can't recommend it higher. If you're just looking for a YA book that has there's some very adult themes in it. Maybe adult isn't the right word, but serious themes. Yeah. Serious themes. It's really I got invested, like I said, in the story, and I cannot recommend it more highly if you're looking for that sort of thing, or if you're looking for a graphic novel to sort of get your feet wet. That's a good one too.
Yeah. I've added it to my list, so you've sold me. I need more to read. Yeah. My last quick pick is Every Last Fear by Alex Finley. And I did this on audio on my commute. And really good, lots of point of views. It's a psychological thriller about the Pine family. And they're famous because there was a documentary made about their family because the oldest son committed a murder. And there's some question about whether he did do it. And there was a lot of sketchy things about the trial. And so this whole family, because of this, is kind of infamous. So what happens at the beginning is the family goes on vacation in Mexico and they're all found dead. And it's a suspected gas leak, which is really fishy. And yeah, exactly. So there's one son who's left behind who is in college, and he gets the word that his brother's in prison, his family has died in this, which everyone is saying it's this accident, and there's a lot going on with it. So he has to go and figure out what happened. And so lots of point of view, lots going on with family dynamics, and great on audio. So I would say go download it. I know. So
many books, so little time.
I know. And I haven't done thrillers in a while. I'm like, why haven't I done these? Thrillers on audio is the way to go because I like the voices and get all of the excitement.
And one narrator. I think
this was one narrator.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some coming up that have multiple, but this was multiple points of view from the family before they died.
Gotcha.
But yeah, one narrator.
That's another one. Add that to the list. Oh, man. So those are our list of quick picks for this episode. We also now wanted to sort of switch gears a little bit. One of the sort of news items, if you will, in the world of media and books and everything, the USA Today issue for the weekend of June 4th had a wraparound advertisement for the Netflix series Sweet Tooth. And it has definitely got some buzz because people were saying it looked like a real headline. People were scared about the animal-human hybrids that they talked about in the articles. And so there was a big brouhaha about the new Netflix series Sweet Tooth. And it is based on a graphic novel series by Canadian artist and author Jeff Lemire. We wanted to sort of use that as a jumping off point to talk about some other adaptations of some fantasy-ish streaming and TV series. So if you happen to have Netflix, the Sweet Tooth is on Netflix. It literally just premiered this weekend. If you watch the show on Netflix, it is not the same as the graphic novel. Both Sarah and I have talked about this a little bit. The graphic novel has a lot grittier storylines to it. It's not. If you watch even the commercials for Sweet Tooth, it looks all bright and cheery, and
it's running around in a forest, and the dad is making him toys.
It's just heartwarming, and it's not quite as heartwarming as a graphic novel. So there's that. So just if you, and the reason I bring this up is I think I saw somebody on the chat that said they were looking for reading materials for their 13-year-old.
This is not it.
The Netflix series looks like it'll be great for that age group. Looks like it should be one. I've heard, it's a little, dark, but dark, I think, in the Harry Potter sort of sense of things.
Yeah.
But the graphic novel series is a lot grittier in there. So
well, and we talked last week about what we prefer. Do we prefer to read the book first watch it first and then read it? And
I was adamant that I was going to wait and I was going to watch the series and I was going to compare it afterwards.
Then I get an email.
That afternoon, I went and I downloaded it and I read it anyway before I watched the first episode of the series. So I was like, I'm a big talker and I want to read the book before I see the movie so I can pick it apart, basically.
And then I did the opposite. I watched it on Saturday morning. I watched 2 episodes and then read the first volume on Sunday, and it was a shocker. It is pretty dark. So
that's not what I expected.
No. There's no frolicking through the forest in the graphic novel, but really entertaining, and I liked comparing the differences.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think the graphic novel is done exceptionally well. I think it's a great story.
It's gripping.
But they've definitely said, can we use the basic ideas you have in your graphic novel and do them in a series? And I'm sure he said, sure, give me some of that Netflix money and you can do whatever you want. So
adapt away.
Adapt away. There you go. And speaking of adaptations, I think we're also going to talk a little bit about the Shadow and Bone that was recently on.
So that's not quite as recent, but within the past few months, Shadow and Bone on Netflix, which is based on two different Leigh Bardugo books. So there's kind of two different stories. There's from Shadow and Bone is Alina's story, and then Six of Crows is Kaz and kind of the thieves' story. So they're blended really well in this.
I didn't read the books. I didn't know there was two different series. So
I did. I read one and did one on audio. So it's kind of funny. While I'm watching, I'm like, this is two books. But they did it really well. And fantastic. You watched it.
I did. The whole thing. Yeah.
Fantastic casting. Really, I mean, like.
And would you characterize it as a YA?
Yeah. I would.
I mean, I don't know whether you can tell, but I am not a YA. So I'm just saying. But I enjoyed watching the series. Both my wife and I had a good time just watching it.
Yeah, so much fun. So if you haven't tried that one.
So how do you think that so you said the casting worked?
Casting worked. I thought the mixing of the two stories, at first I was kind of disappointed because I thought, well, I can't get that series then, but I think it worked in the TV kind of way that you're skipping around and being interested in it. And yeah, besides the casting, I mean, I really loved the sets, and I thought everything really worked.
I will say, and I think I asked you this before, I will say that I still couldn't figure out until I got to the end what was Shadow and what was the Bone. And you had a good rationalization for it though. So I think I bought it. I believed. So
that the Shadow is that in between dark world that they're trying to fix, and the Bone, it kind of comes in later. She has some special powers.
There you go. Good non-spoiler description. Oh, well done. Oh, I like that.
And so
another upcoming series to be aware of, being adapted from a book, is of course the Lord of the Rings, let's call it, Amazon series that they've been talking about. It's supposed to be the most expensive TV series ever made, that kind of thing. Personally, I am a Tolkien nerd from way back. I think that I could give Stephen Colbert a run for his money as far as the trivia goes. So if you know what El Encilo Luminum and Tievo means, I'll hang out with you. But it's if you want hobbits, I don't think you're gonna get hobbits in this.
Mostly
unless
elves.
They shoehorn them in there. Mostly elves, mostly men. The gods could make an appearance, because as my understanding is that this series is going to focus on the second age of Middle Earth, which is about 1,000 years before the events of the Lord of the Rings movies and The Hobbit. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be new. There are going to be some characters, of course. Galadriel is going to be in there because she is an immortal elf, so she can be in whatever she wants to be in. But there's going to be some other interesting things. There's a possibility, I guess, that Gandalf could make an appearance because he was around too, around that time. So Sauron is going to be in there, but it's basically, as I understand it, going to be based on the appendices in the Return of the King, which is why we brought the Return of the King, and also the stories in the Silmarillion. So I want to be cautiously optimistic, but I'm like,
Amazon does a good job. If it was, I don't know, some little rinky-dink outfit, I'd be a little more worried.
Exactly.
They still could mess it up.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm looking forward to that to see exactly what happens.
So tell me, in Lord of the Rings, how far before, this isn't when the ring was created and you see the flashbacks in the movie where
this is actually
time.
So whenever you see the beginning of the first movie in the Lord of the Rings, whenever you see the elves and men going against Sauron, that's going to be the tail end of this. So I've just been reading that they are talking about that they could really do up that battle and sort of be that would be the entree then into the movies then. So you can have that sort of blending between the movies and the TV series at the end of however many years they want to do the series. So.
All right, that'll be good because everyone's kind of familiar with the flashbacks.
Exactly. So you can have Elrond. So there's some guys there. So, but fingers crossed.
And while we're on the topic and why we're worried about the possible Lord of the Rings mess up is because Game of Thrones, fantastic book series, which the TV show started off fantastic.
Which we may mention is still not finished.
Right. So the problem is the author didn't write fast enough to keep ahead of the TV writers. And unfortunately, the TV writers kind of dropped the ball. So it was really disappointing. I read it ahead of the show. And loved it, and then loved it up until a certain point, and then it just was so disappointing that you
Up
just
until a certain
turned and
point.
crushed my dreams. So
I have had
we don't want that to happen.
conversations. I have had numerous conversations with people about the last season of Game of Thrones. So it'll be interesting to see what George R. Martin actually does whenever he finally. So is he going to finish it or not? There's the question.
I don't know at this point because he keeps saying he is, and there's nothing happening.
There's nothing happening.
So I hope
Come on,
so.
George, come on, please, come on.
Oh, and we got a question about whether Shadow and Bone, the show, is close to the books, and I think it is. Yeah, I think the same tone. It's not like Sweet Tooth where it's like way different. Very well adapted.
So if somebody did like that, they sort of know what they're going to get with the books. Then
it's not going to be a big Good,
and that's an important thing. Yeah,
definitely.
And then we're just going to sort of. There's a couple of other adaptations. Neil Gaiman's Sandman is being currently made into a Netflix series as well. Again, they're comics. They are not for kids. They're not, I don't think, at least they're not for your average 13-year-old, that's for sure. There are some very adult themes that Neil Gaiman covers in these, but they are written so well. This is one of the first graphic novel series that really went after that adult audience and really got some major adult themes and covered some really gritty stuff. And this is one of the series that actually started the whole thing, that we're used to now. But it's amazing whenever you read these. I've recently went back and read the first few volumes again, and just the way Neil Gaiman writes and the callbacks to things. I mean, Shakespeare makes an appearance in these. And then later on in the series, again, there's a callback to whoever Shakespeare. So you have to have read that part to know this part. It's all intertwined. It is just masterfully done. It's an amazing series. If you haven't read the Sandman series, you can read this anytime, but I would definitely read it before the series comes out because Neil Gaiman is intimately involved in the making of the series. There's some videos that I just recently saw online. So I am more cautiously optimistic for the Sandman series than I am for the Lord of the Rings series. So we'll see what happens. Nice. Keep my expectations low. And I also just literally read today that Why the Last Man is coming to, I believe it is FX on Hulu in September, and the Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerra are the creators of that, and Brian K. Vaughan is actually from Cleveland, so we have a Cleveland connection with Why the Last Man. Another really great series, not for the kiddies. We're not talking Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, so it's a post-apocalyptic look where all of the men have died. Anybody with a Y chromosome in the entire world has died out. And there's one man left, and he's literally the last man, and his name is Yorick. So it's, there's the Y chromosome, Yorick, his name, all in the title there. But it's done really well as well, and it's a good long saga. It's complete now, so you can actually read from beginning to end, get the whole story. So I highly recommend that one too, and it's nice that it has a nice little Cleveland connection as well.
Awesome. And then we had another one, which is we're doing a lot of dark graphic novels today. So The Boys, which I did not read, but I watched, and it is a lot of fun, very dark,
the basic how would you describe the basic premise is that superheroes are real
and managed by a corporation and not exactly heroic.
There you go. Exactly. It's a facade. It's all a facade. But again, this one I think it's closer than Sweet Tooth is. And I just recently read that Garth Ennis, the writer, has to approve all of the dialogue of one of the characters. The main character, Butcher, is his favorite character that he's ever created. So they literally send him the scripts for his okay on the scripts before they film the dialogue for that particular character. So I thought that was an interesting thing that the creator of the comic still has his hand in the production. So
that's great.
That's kind of
probably
nice.
Why it's more true than some of the other ones.
Exactly. But yeah, dark, man. We're dark and green.
I know, we might have to balance this out.
Hold up, Laura Dean again. Now.
Going back to the nice romance.
Yeah, they get the nice romance. There we go.
It seems like, with TV adaptations, they're usually a little more.
And I did notice that somebody had mentioned Stacey Abrams' new book, and I think it's great that she is both a writer as well as an activist. And so I think that whenever I found out that she had written those sorts of books, I thought it was just the best thing. So that was a lot of fun. I have not read yet. I will say that. So.
Oh, nice. And Erica is listening to Off the Record by Cameron Garrett, which I don't know that one. So
do we have any other questions for any things that we covered here today? We got about 3 minutes left, it looks like. Or actually, we're over time. We're actually over time. 5:33. Look at that. So we did fill up our time.
We did. We were worried we weren't going to have enough to talk about, and here we are, just like blabbing away. So.
All right. So I think we are 30 minutes and 50 seconds. So thank you very much for joining us on this first experimental episode of Book Drops.
Yeah, and join us again in 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about audiobooks then.
See you then.
Thanks.
We're assuming that we're going.